the problems that they have right now is just writing it down, you know, their words. Mm-hmm. They can think up here, but their words, you know, like if they don't know how to spell it, then they just don't want to write it, you know. So that's something that we're seeing in first grade.
What we've been talking about in class is the amount of texting people do and how texting is just killing writing. We're noticing that not only are words getting shorter, but they're using numbers for letters. Mm-hmm. So the 0 is now an O, and there's no punctuation and no complete thoughts, and it's a mess.
We've been told, we need to write across the curriculum. And that's all we've been told. We haven't been shown anything. And, you know, just being as a teacher, being able to add something else, mm-hmm. you know, particularly when you're kind of vague on the whole idea, it's very confusing. You're just like, okay, I need to make them write a sentence at the end of the day. Okay, big deal, okay. But now when you start thinking about it, you know, when you do write about something, then you understand it more and you also retain more.
Exactly.
So learning ways to incorporate it more often and more frequently in my classroom would be great.
Yeah.
But like I said, you know, it's just not shown. I mean, we don't have a PD on it. You know, we've never had one. We've always asked, okay, you want us to write across the curriculum, but no one showed us how to do it.
We can show you how.
Yeah.
Hello, and welcome to the Common Core Writing Academy. What you just saw in the last video clips were some common frustrations among writing teachers that span all grade levels, from the first grade teacher you saw to the adult educator. Here at the Common Core Writing Academy, we offer solutions to K-12 educators and administrators looking to increase their skillful implementation of effective and efficient Common Core writing strategies for their students. In this video, you will see a 30-minute sample of our founder, Dr. Jennifer Burns' strategies for engaging a small group of adult learners in a professional development session. The content of this video includes a review of the current state of writing achievement in the United States, an overview of writing research, and the 9 evidence-based best practices we embed in all of our work, as well as a brief overview of what the Common Core writing standards expect of students and of teachers. We hope you enjoy this sample of our work, and we look forward to supporting your efforts to improve writing instruction within your organization.
Welcome to our session. I really appreciate you being here. Thank you for coming to meet together for our work, and thank you for your willingness to learn together and to talk together. Today, what we're going to be looking at is we're going to be looking at 3 things. We're going to be looking at what the research says about writing instruction, because we're going to get right to the heart of what the research says has been proven to make writing instruction effective and efficient. The second thing we're going to look at, after we look at the research and analyze it, we're going to correlate that research with the Common Core State Standards for Writing. Okay, we're going to see how much overlap there is between those. The third thing we're going to do today is we're going to look at, explore, get into the evidence-based best practices for teaching writing. So you see how these kind of nest within each other? Here's our big picture, how it ties to the Common Core State Standards in writing, what that drills down to in best practices for our daily writing. Whatever grade level you teach, whatever content, whatever level of need of student you work with. Any questions about this? Okay. So before we go any further, I'd like to invite you to agree to the norms. And every time that we work together, we always have norms. And what are norms?
Accepted practices.
Accepted practices. Thank you, Mike. What did you say, Leanne?
Standards.
Standards, right, okay. So norms for us are the ways that we agree to work together. So I'd like to invite you to share ideas first. I'm not going to be the lecturer. I'm not going to be the only one talking. I've designed our session together to be an opportunity for each person here to get to talk also. And for that to happen, that means that we have to be fully present in the class, in our session together. We have to be actively listening to each other and thinking about what our colleagues are saying to each other. The second norm is I'd like to invite you to create meaning or make sense of what you hear. Every person who comes into our room, into our session to work together, comes from different background, different values, different education, different experience, different job assignment. And so every person in here, even though you're going to walk away with some of the very similar ideas and concepts, each one of us, because we are unique, is going to leave with our own interpretation or our own application of what we learn to the jobs that we do. The third norm I'd like to invite you to agree to is to have fun. There's research that says that adults learn best when the situation is a little bit pleasant. Not extremely pleasant, but a little bit pleasant. I have to say, on the other hand, that the same research shows that people remember well when the situation is a little bit unpleasant also. So we're going to stick with the pleasant side, okay? So we're going to have fun. Feel free to laugh at any of my jokes. Thank you, good start. And smile at each other. Make jokes if you want to, as long as they're on task and on topic and appropriate, then you can go with that. So these are the three norms I'd like to invite you to agree to for our working together. Do you agree to these?
Yes.
Great, thank you. Let's move on then. All right, I always like to start, anytime that we work with adults, we want to look at what anchors what we do, why we do what we do. And we want to always remember that the work that we do is eternal and that we serve the future, not just earn a paycheck. So we've got this beautiful quote, and I'd like to invite a volunteer. Someone volunteer? Okay, Leanne, would you read this nice and loud? And the rest of you, while she's reading, please listen and think about how this applies to your own life too. Go ahead, please.
It's important as a writer to do my art well and do it in a way that is powerful and beautiful and meaningful, so that my work regenerates the people, certainly Indian people, and the earth and the sun, and in that way we all continue forever. Joy Harjo.
Thank you. Okay, so Joy Harjo, or Harjo, whichever way you want to pronounce it, said these words. Do these apply to us today? They do. Whatever school we're in, whatever grade level we're working with, the work that we do creates the future that our children will experience. We will not be around for, so, or we may be around for part of it, but the work that we do is incredible. It's invisible, it's important, it's critical. So it's essential that every day we bring our best to work, and we do our best. And this is an important reminder of that. Any questions or comments? I'm sorry it's not in showing better color. It's a fabulous picture. Okay, given that, given the importance of what we do, let's look at the current conditions for teaching writing in the United States today. I'm not going to read this slide to you, but I am going to highlight some things here. Look at that first bullet. Is this true? Is it true, do you think in your own experience, that 70% of kids between 4th grade and 12th grade are actually low-achieving writers?
Yes.
Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. You know, you noticed it doesn't say low-achieving readers or mathematicians, it says writers. Okay? Let's look at the next one. Is this true? Every day, 7,000 kids drop out of high school in the United States.
Not exactly sure, but it sounds about accurate.
It is actually true. It is actually true. So if you multiply that by the number of work days in a school year, or in a year, then How many thousands of kids are we talking about dropping out? Thousands upon thousands, right? Right. I want you to think about the graduation rate in your own district and the schools that you work, or the schools where your relatives attend, or maybe even the school district you attended. And this is really essential. The question is, why are these kids dropping out? Is there a connection between these two? Think about that, and let's look at the next one. It says here that, and these are United States statistics. This is not global, this is United States of America. So kids who enter 9th grade in the bottom quarter of their class are 20 times more likely to drop out than anyone else.
I believe it.
So is this connected to the number 7,000 or the low achieving writers? Probably. Let's look at the next one. If you look at all of the kids who go to college after high school graduation, 1/3 are not ready for the beginning composition course they have to take in college. 1/3. If you look at the university campuses around here, anywhere else in the United States that you've been affiliated, everybody has remedial writing courses, don't they? Or they even have a whole remedial writing lab. Okay? So now, do you see how it's accumulating? Let's look at this next one. The knowledge and skills required for both higher ed, or college or technical school, and for employment are considered basically equivalent. What does that mean?
Higher expectations. Improve our writing, improve the skills of our workforce.
Right, we have to improve the skills of our workforce. Whether or not kids are going to college, they need the same skills for going into the workforce. If they skip college, they skip technical school, skip post-secondary, they still have to have basically the equivalent skills for today's workforce. Let's look at this last one. Notice it's exactly the same as the first bullet. What do you surmise from that?
We need to build more writers
Yeah, why?
so that they can be successful in the workforce, in school, in life, in their own personal well-being.
Yeah. Okay, and now we've made the assumption here that writing helps you learn. But I think that you may be going from your own gut feeling or your own experience, right? Okay, so let's see. Let's see what the research says, shall we? What I'd like for us to do is called a jigsaw. And in this activity, you're going to look at some lengthy research about what the evidence says, or the research says, are best practices for teaching writing. Now, this is a jigsaw, and probably if I gave you this research article to read on your own, you wouldn't. Or you'd avoid it, or you'd skim it. But we're going to approach this in an activity called a jigsaw, and a jigsaw is many pieces, right, that fit together. So what each of you are going to do in this activity is you're each only going to be responsible for a portion of, excuse me, of the reading. And you're going to digest your own portion, and then you're going to come together in a group, share the summary for each of your portions, and make sense of it together. In this activity, you're going to read by yourselves, you're going to write by yourselves, then you're going to come together, you're going to each take turns talking, and while one person's talking, the other two will be listening and taking notes. Then the last thing you're going to do is create a general summary together. Okay? How many of you like to read research? One person!
I'm currently doing it right now.
Okay, all right. And you know, a lot of people like to read research if they're insomniac. No, I'm kidding. Okay, so let's see. Denise is like, I'm not so sure about you. So here are the directions. And I've got them up here. We'll review them really quickly, and you can refresh yourself with what you're supposed to be doing at each step as we go. Okay? So decide 1, 2, 3. Let's start with Janice. Janice, today you are number 1. Okay, and then,
2.
3.
okay, great. So, you've got the section in front of you, and you may want to look now and see where your, the part you're going to be responsible to read. And you see clearly in the left-hand margin, then your number is there, and then if you read down, you'll see where it says stop after your number. Stop there when you finish reading, and feel free to write on these papers, interact with your reading as much as you want, highlight, take notes, circle, write questions or comments in the margins, whatever you want to do. Then you're going to be doing this silently, okay? Then after that, I'd like to have you still silently summarize what you read, okay? Reader's Digest condensed version of what you just read. Put it in your own words. Think about it and make it as simple as possible. When you are finished, give me the cue that you're ready to talk on by putting your pens down, and then I'll know that we're all ready to come back together and talk. Then the number ones are going to start first, and then the 2s and 3s are going to be listening to 1 share. When 1 is finished, then 2 gets to share, and so on. I want for you to take about 1 minute to 2 minutes to share your sections when you come together. But the rest of you should be taking notes while you're listening, okay? And last of all, together you're going to talk about what you read, make sense of it together, and create a 2 or 3 sentence long summary. Okay? Any questions about this? No? Okay. Here's the time frame I want to give you for this. This should take you about 13 minutes to accomplish. I will check with you after about 11 minutes and see if you need more time. If you need more time, no problem, we'll add that. If you need less time, we'll move on. Okay? All right, go ahead and begin reading, please. So thank you for doing this. Let's come back together. And Leanne, you made a good point. You just said that it was kind of hard to do your section because it was the last, and you were wondering what had what had come in the 2 sections right before. And then Mike, you agreed, and you said that you were section 2, and you wondered what was in section 1. This is part of the beauty of a jigsaw activity, and you can use this with your own students. Here's one thing. It cuts down the burden of having to read a very long piece of research. So, as my grandmother used to say, many hands make light work. The second thing is that if you do one section and you do one section and you do one section, if you're actively engaged with what you're reading, you start to wonder what your partners were reading. And so that helps prep your brain for when you come together to share what you each summarized in your reading. Because you're actually curious about what he read, and you're actually curious about what she read. And you may even be curious about what, you may be curious, Janice, about what the other 2 read. So this is a great activity to use. I recommend this strategy easily for grades 3 and up. Okay? And you could do a modified one, a much simpler one with primary, but this is basically a comprehension strategy for grades 3 and up. Okay, so what I'd like you to do now, please, is come together. Janice, you're number 1, and so will you just read what you wrote to your other 2 colleagues, and other 2 colleagues, please make sure that you're writing notes what you hear Janice say. When she's finished sharing her summary, if you have any questions for clarification, ask them of her then. But refrain from giving your opinion or making commentary, because all we're doing in this activity right now is sharing a summary of what was read. Okay? Personal commentary can come at the last part of this activity. Okay? So this should take you about 4 or 5 minutes to share. Go ahead and do that, please.
That adults need writing skills every day because it's in their daily lives, like doing grocery shopping lists, writing notes to teachers, so forth and there. But a lot of them struggle, and that in the workforce and even in community colleges, they have to provide instructions, developmental instructions for them to become better writers. And that now even the businesses are providing classes, for adults so that they can I guess, improve in their writing abilities for their job.
It said the findings were writing instruction should emphasize explicit, direct, and systematic instruction. Also assistance from peers, mentors, and tech tools. And instructional intervention that they found to be effective was self-regulated strategies development. Basically taught to them through professional development was to teach them positive self-instruction versus what a lot of people do is negative self-talk, which kind of leads to your failure.
Mine broke down actually how to instruct writing. And so there were several different steps to really focus on. The first was collaborative writing, actually making arrangements for time for the students to work on the different portions of their writing, such as planning, drafting, revising, editing, and publishing, to really take that time and plot it out in their day or their week or their month, however long their writing assignment is. The second was setting specific goals. Each student would have a specific goal that they would set or that the instructor would set along with them. They would set this in advance and then monitor throughout their writing. And this would improve their writing and prove to be high quality writing work as long as they're sticking to their goals.
Is what you just read, digested, and shared, and how it matches the 9 best practices that we've distilled from a large review of the research about writing. So look at this for just a second. Do you see the same things, a lot of the same things that you've just read? What we did was we took the best practices that kept coming up from the review of literature that we did. And then we prioritized them by what the research was talking about, seemed to be the most important, and how those were scaffolded. And we also used our own experiences as writing teachers to organize these in a sequence that makes sense for teachers who are learning how to teach writing. So the very first best practice that the research said over and over and over was process writing. Teaching the process of writing. Brainstorming, organizing, generating a draft, getting feedback, going back, rewriting, checking, making more revisions or edits, and then publishing or sharing with others. Mentor text. Mentor text is just example text. And when students learn to write a certain text structure, they've got lots and lots of examples. And so that's what mentor text is. Another word for mentor here is exemplar or exemplary, sample or example. That's what the word mentor also means. The third most important is teacher modeling. Teachers actually showing kids how they have written themselves. So here, the research shows us that for writing instruction to be highly effective, to really impact kids' writing, the teachers have to be writing also and showing kids how they write and what they write and the process of their thinking as they write. The fourth one, and you'd mentioned this, Leanne, is workshop time. It's called workshop time in the literature. Workshop time just means that there's time allocated during class, in school, on a regular basis, for kids to be able to brainstorm, organize, generate writing, review, respond, and rewrite. Okay? The next are response groups. Absolutely essential. Response groups are kids who come together just like you came together in your jigsaw group, and they get a chance to listen to each other's writings and then analyze them using a structure. So when kids work in response groups, they use a rubric, they use a structure, and they analyze their grade level peers' writing, respond to it, and then each kid gets those responses and are able to take those responses back, and in the process of writing, they're able to review what their peers have said and use that information to help them make revisions and improve their writing. The next is the 6-trait model, and we think of the 6-trait model just as a way of teaching. It's not, it's a way of analyzing So the 6-trait model is what we use to look at 6 different facets of writing. The next one is debriefing. Every writing lesson, no matter what content, should close with debriefing. Let's review, and here's what it would look like. Let's review what we've done in our writing session today. Let's look at the activities that we've done, and let's talk about the big ideas that jump out at you, and let's think about what we thought about. Let's notice our thinking while we were writing and talking about writing. Debriefing is absolutely essential because the very act of writing is a way for the brain to learn to organize information and remember it better. We call that remembering learning. Debriefing helps kids anchor, like using Velcro, to anchor down new learnings and to organize those into files that are easily retrievable when they want to use that information later. Cross-content, I think, Mike, you had talked about cross-content in your sharing. Writing has got to be across all content areas. It's not just an English teacher's job or just a reading teacher's job or just a language arts teacher's job. We know that from the research that when writing occurs in cross-content in a school, all learning is accelerated. We know that there's also research that talks about how when kids become better writers, they automatically transfer that skill in learning to every other content area, every other subject area they're learning. So if you want your kids to become better students, teach them to become better writers. The last one is you've got to use formative assessment. Check and see how your kids are growing along the way. Use formative assessment, authentic probes, so that kids can write on demand particular text structures or particular questions. This is great preparation for the PARC or SBAC assessment or your own state assessment. And it's a great way, it can be a very quick way for you to look at how your kids are progressing so that you can go back and look at which of these best practices you need to pay more attention to or ramp up, or what part of the process of writing that you want to reteach even. Any questions or comments about this? Do you like this? Now, if I had shown you this, instead of having you do the research, would you have believed these?
You would be probably piecing it together as you were speaking rather than already having an idea of how to think about it.
Excellent. So what you're talking about, Mike, is that the process of reading and writing generates a schema in your head for other new learning.
Correct.
Excellent. Thank you for making that insight. Okay, so now we're going to shift over and look at what the Common Core State Standards are for writing. There are only 4 Common Core State Standards for writing. What I'd like for you to think about is I'd like for you to think about the research that you just read. Think about the best practices. And let's look at these. There are 4 standards. The first standard in the Common Core State Standards for writing is text types and purposes. There are 3 text types. Do you know what they are? Want to try? What types of writing are there?
Well, it's technical writing.
Oh, there's persuasive and also called argument. Okay, there is technical, but that's not one of the 3.
Standards.
That's not one of the 3 main text types. But it would be part of another type, a larger. So we've got persuasive or argument writing. What else? What would technical fit into? What?
Informative.
Informative writing, yes. Technical writing is part of informative writing. Excellent. And the third type is what? It's the most common.
I know.
Most common that kids learn to write at school.
Like recreational, but I don't know.
Yes, it is recreational. Often it's narrative.
Narrative.
Right.
So,
Right. So in the Common Core State Standards, there's a focus on 3 types of writing: expository or informative, narrative, and argument. Okay, and you can see how argument really is focused on logic, right?
Yes.
And structure. The second is production and distribution of writing, which is process writing, and that's mentor text, teacher modeling, workshop time, response groups, debriefing. You can see all of that fits in here, right, from the research. The third one is, the standard is writing about research in order to build knowledge. This is that ubiquitous research paper that everyone had to write at least one of in high school, right? Well, the world, information in the world is expanding rapidly, and we have kids doing more research earlier and earlier and earlier, okay? So writing about research, when you write about something you read, you actually digest it, you actually learn to comprehend it. So learning to write for what you have been reading is also called research writing. The last one is range of writing, and range of writing is really simple. It's only two things. Short-term writing, which is like journal writing or log or answering questions or short, it's short answer, short writings. And then the long-term range of writing is longer writings that take multiple days to accomplish. And that may be like the multiple paragraph essay, or it may be argument, or it may be research. Okay? So these are the 4 standards. Are you surprised? Why are you surprised? What's surprising here?
Okay, it's just condensed.
This is it.
That's it.
Right. Can you do this? Are you already doing a lot of this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You see it even in first grade.
Yes, exactly. Great. So one thing that we wanted to point out here is that the Common Core State Standards create a lot of fear in people. And the Common Core State Standards are good ideas that master teachers have employed for decades, centuries, even millennia. Okay? They're just what master teachers have done for a long time, with the exception of adding more technology, because we have so much more technology these days. Okay, so the point of this is to help you feel less anxiety about Common Core State Standards for writing. You already have read the research. You've already looked at the best practices. Have you been thinking about how you can fit this into what you already do? How can you, what are your thoughts, Mike?
Particularly with the range of writing, you get thinking about expanding the reflection time for students, so they can kind of write down some things, key ideas that they covered, and hopefully, like you said, build that file.
Right. Thank you. And in another session, we talk about writing across content areas. You teach geometry and technology? Robotics, okay. And so in another session, we would show you how the 4 basic types of writing that always occur across content areas. And one of them is reflection. So thank you for sharing that. Any other questions or comments? Leanne, your eyebrows.
I know. I'm excited because
Yes.
I work with adults right now who are working with children, and I just think of the goals that we set at each visit and how they should be writing their own goals, how we work on resume writing, how we work on job applications, how we could review what we learned and write a summary. So building the writing skills in adults.
Good.
For everyday life.
One thing that we're going to look at is how teaching children to write skillfully impacts the way that they interact with other children, the way they interact with what they read, the way that they start organizing and remembering thoughts, and the way that they start developing their own opinions or positions in the world. And that's part of becoming an independent adult, or in some places, self-determination and sovereignty. Okay, and I think that's pretty exciting for what we talk about